Hi, everybody. Welcome to 20Q 20 Questions with Interesting People, where we learn the origin stories of everyday superheroes in the LGBT community and friends. I am your host, the very handsome Tim Kirk, and our guest this time is raconteuse, bon vivant, woman about town, and award winning songwriter, singer, guitarist, producer, and life coach, Kate Schutt. Hi, Kate.
Hey, Tim. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to ask you a little bit about your background. Where are
Great.
you originally from, and what was it like?
I'm originally from a little town in Pennsylvania, southeast Pennsylvania, called Chadsford, PA. It's right on the line between, it's right on the Delaware line. It's right where Delaware takes a bite out of Pennsylvania. Um, what was it like? I was the third child of three, the only girl. I had two older brothers. I was very much a tomboy. I wanted to do everything that they wanted to do. So I tagged along with them, playing all sorts of sports. Started playing ice hockey at a very young age, as soon as I could stand up, I guess, and put skates on my feet. And I played boys ice hockey all through my childhood. I had a very outdoorsy life, like playing in the woods, pond hockey in the wintertime, sledding. Just we were kind of always outdoors. Um, so that's kind of how I grew up. I mean, then I was sort of an unremarkable student in grade school, and then I wanted to get a little bit more serious about my sports. Um, so did that in high school, and then got recruited to play Division 1 ice hockey, women's ice hockey, and Division 1 women's lacrosse. So eventually chose Harvard and played those two sports there. And after doing that for a couple of years, dropped out and went to music school. And then went back to Harvard and finished my sports career, and then went back to music school. I did graduate from Harvard. I did not graduate from Berklee College of Music, but I ended up, being there for many, many semesters. So that was it in a nutshell.
Well, that's fantastic to know that. Based on this incredible story so far, uh, what life experience had the greatest impact on you?
Oh, it's such a hard question. Um, I'd have to go back to my childhood and say one of the sort of foundational experiences for me was the ability. I was lucky enough, my parents were able to send me to a summer camp when I was 12 years old, was when I started going. That was in Wyoming. And yeah, and it was, I was able through that summer camp to go hiking and backpacking and riding horses and just being in the wilderness as like a really young kid. I mean, 12's pretty young to be backpacking for 4 or 5 days. Um, and I would go back every summer for about 4 summers and just increase my skills in those areas. And that was just a huge foundational part of my life. Uh, being in the Tetons at that young of an age is and carrying a pack on your back, and learning how to navigate and learning how to just stay safe in the wilderness. And yeah,
How did you do this? Your parents sent you there, so you were on your own with with a
yeah,
instructor.
it was a summer camp, so there were about 100 other. It was single sex, so there were 100 other girls, and there were campers and counselors and trip leaders and all that kind of thing. So it was just, it was, you were there, you had a group that was all the same age, so a bunch of 12-year-olds and a bunch of 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds and like that. So we would just, I mean, it was all organized. The camp's been around for a really long time. So, but it was just such a foundational experience for me. It gave me a lot of, it really taught me a lot about self-confidence and taught me a lot about teamwork.
Sounds like you took to it right away too.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I just found it so, I mean, it was hard. I can remember, my very first backpack. Uh, it rained the whole time, and we were soaking wet and freezing, and but nothing tasted as good as a can of tomato paste spread on a English muffin, you know, like
I bet. It really probably felt great.
it was just, like it just taught you those very basic um right, fit skills, self-reliance, teamwork, learning how to take a bad situation and make it good, those kinds of things.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
So
I was very lucky.
you telling me this great story about you
Hmm.
and um, your experience, your current your experience. What would you say to anyone interested in an aspect of your experience? Meaning, if someone wanted to explore an idea or prospective opportunity based on what you can tell them, what would be the main thing to encourage or discourage them?
Well, I think the thing I would say is just building off my last answer, which is get out into the wild, get out into nature with a capital N. Um, go try, and obviously you don't have to start with a 10-day long backpacking trip. I mean, start slowly, but go experience the backcountry and increase the amount of times that you go and increase the amount of days that you're there. And because I think nothing, I mean, this is something I still do. I still do a lot of backpacking, and uh, then nothing brings you closer to the essence of life than uh, than nature, than and being in the middle of it, and sort of the overwhelming. You're. I mean, humans tend to be very self-oriented, and when you're in nature and in the wild like that for days on end, you really start to understand that it's not about you. It's Mother Nature is just so huge and so powerful, and we're just a little blip. We're just a little
Yeah,
breath, and then we're gone. And there's so much. It just really, for me, puts me in my place. It reminds me what's important. So
very good.
that's what I would say. I would encourage people to do that because you learn so much about yourself, and you learn so much about the world.
Yeah, I have my minor version of that is just being on the beach by myself and just understanding that you are not even a grain of sand and you're
Yeah,
so consequential,
that's
compared to
it.
everything else, the vastness of everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think the ocean does that for a lot of people.
yeah, it
Like.
just puts you in total perspective. You just see how utterly insignificant you are.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so just two quick follow ups on that is
Mhm.
uh, bonding with other people when you were other girls when you were doing that. Did you get a
Mhm.
greater understanding of people of basic human nature from them? And when you did interact with locals,
Mm.
what did you take away from them? Or what, like, did they have the same appreciation? Did you get anything from them, or were they matter of fact about it? And did they take it for granted? Or was there a combination? Or was anything striking about that?
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, living in a cabin with 10 or 12 other girls when you're that age, um, and it teaches you a lot about, like, just being able to be comfortable and be yourself with any kind of person going through any kind of thing. You can't have a lot of opinions and a lot of peculiarities without, you mean, the whole point is to get along. So um I learned a lot about that, just about teamwork and about that. Oh, what scares one person is the thing that fires other people up, and you learn how to be a good friend. And I'm old enough that this was all going on in the 80s, like, no, if you we didn't I didn't see my camp friends throughout the year unless I wrote letters to them. So that there was also that aspect of things. Like, if you wanted to remain friends with someone, you really had to work at it. So I think that's my answer to the question of, teamwork and learning how to live with other people. And then in terms of meeting locals or, interacting with them, I mean, we were sort of sequestered, so we didn't have at that age much interaction. I mean, we'd see people on the trail and that kind of thing. And that was always interesting. I mean, it's just amazing to be 12 years old and carrying your own backpack and, then seeing some adults pass you or, come up beside you and they're wearing flip-flops on the trail. And, I mean, it gives you a kind of confidence, you know. It's a great lesson to learn at a young age because the rest of life is all about getting along with other people, I mean, so.
Yeah. The next question is, what action or actions would you reconsider? Say your great energy and talent would be, to your mind, better directed elsewhere to something or someone or something more rewarding.
This is so easy to answer for me. I really should be doing painting or sculpting.
Yeah.
Uh, yep. I I have always done visual art since I was before I can remember. I've always been interested in it. I always did it as part of my academics. I was always taking a drawing class or a painting class, even through college. Um, and yeah, I kind of came to a crossroads at one point in my life and just thought, okay, I'm here. I can either like really pursue painting and visual art and sculpting, or I can pursue music. I felt like I was at a crossroads, and I decided to go the music route, and mostly because I didn't want to regret not going down that path. Um, but so that's what I chose to do. So then for a really long time I put visual art away and really focused on my music. But I don't know. I don't sweat anything in visual art. Like I don't give a am I allowed to swear?
This is adult.
This is an adult podcast. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about like my drawings and my paintings and I have a kind of inner compass there that's sort of undeniable for me. In music, I do not have that. And I spend a lot of time trying to take that confidence that I have from visual art and bring it over to my music life. So, I mean, I have a joke with my partner that like, maybe once every month I'll be like, I should just quit all this music bullshit and start painting and sculpting. I mean, literally, I say that like once a month, if not more. So that's easy for me. That's what I would be doing.
It's
I mean, I
interesting.
I was going through here's when I knew it was really true. Uh, I was going through my mom and I were going through some old drawer in the house, and we found a bunch of art projects from my brothers and me, and in kindergarten and stuff like that. And I had made a little cardboard car. So it was sort of a sculpture. It wasn't a drawing. And it said on it, "Art is the most fantastic." I was like,
It's cool.
mic drop. I mean, that was it. That's what I should have been doing. Why am I doing anything else?
Oh,
So
that's awesome. What was the biggest personal challenge you have faced? Was it a personal injury, a seemingly overwhelming task, a personal or professional goal, a difficult situation you had to overcome?
the biggest personal challenge for me was 2010, 2011, 2011. Can't believe I couldn't remember for a minute. 2011, my mom got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 3C, and was I had just moved to New York and was really getting settled and situated and ramping up being a new musician in New York, uh, and had just landed this incredible gig to go play in the Middle East for a couple months, and literally was my bags were packed and I was leaving days and in a few days, and she got this news. And so on a dime, I mean, it wasn't a choice. I just broke my contract, unpacked, repacked, moved home to my childhood bedroom, and became her primary caregiver, and walked her through hand in hand through that journey, which I didn't know neither of us knew whether it would last a year, less than a year, more than a year, whatever. Her doctor, once she started major chemotherapy, and she had a major debulking surgery and then frontline chemo, and once, the best I could get from him was like, maybe she'll be lucky if she has 2 years. So, but I was in it for till the end. So that was the hardest experience of my life. I mean, I've had other ones, but that trumped them all. If you choose to be there for it or do it, and show up, it's a hard one, but
Yeah,
it's a privilege too. It's just, I mean,
yeah.
it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I would do it over again in a heartbeat. And it was it was a privilege. So.
What would you say was the transformational moment in your life? A meaningful gift, a reason to belong to something, yeah, being a parent, not being a parent, good job, bad job?
Hmm. Transformational moment. I think a big transformational moment for me in my life was when I started high school. I just had an epiphany, and I can't really explain it any other way. Uh, there was no precipitating event, but I just sort of I realized, I realized in a moment that I guess it was the transition from one thing to another, that I could be anybody I wanted to be. Like, that there was sort of a clean slate, and that I that a, that I could control that. Like, that life wasn't just sort of mapped out for me. I didn't have to just be the person I had been up until that point, till about 14. I mean, I think this happened to me when I was 14. I don't know what happened, where that came from, but it dawned on me in a moment. And from then on, everything was really different. I went from being a very unremarkable student to really excelling academically. And I played ice hockey and was very skilled at that time. But picked up a couple of other sports and took them a lot more seriously. And I don't know, just everything changed from then. And I think I sort of became a seeker of that edge, that ability to use your mind to change your circumstances.
So, based on that, uh, what drives you? What gets you up in the morning?
Hmm. I think that I've always been spring loaded. Spring loaded. Like, I get up, my eyes wake up, and I'm out of bed. I've never been. I don't remember a time when I'm the kind of person who lies in bed and wakes up slowly. Um, I don't know if that's because I had two older brothers and I was always chasing them, So I feel like there's always this impulse to just get up and start seeing what the day has in store for me. Um, Nowadays in my life, what gets me up is connecting with my partner. She lives across the country in San Diego, so I'm always want to talk to her or hear from her. She's 3 hours behind me, so I don't talk to her first thing in the morning, but we exchange messages overnight. And getting to my instruments, practicing, um, meditating, just getting into my day and doing my things. I mean, I lead a life that's very much based around getting better at instruments and writing more songs and skills, furthering myself. So I feel like I'm just a beehive of activity at any any given time of the day. So, you know.
What's the first thing you want to come to people's minds when they think of you?
Oh man. First thing. Well, um my answer to this is I don't have control over what people think of me. So, I I don't want them to think about me. I want them to be present
Okay.
and be in the now. I think that if people were, I don't want them to, I'm not saying pay attention to themselves. I mean, pay attention to the present moment. Be in touch with the present moment. Hmm.
So, seeing you're saying that you want people to be in the moment, what
Mm.
is your Zen?
Yeah. My Zen is Zen, actually. I've been studying Zen. Uh, I've been doing Zen awareness practice with a teacher named Sherry Huber, who has a monastery, a small, scrappy, amazing, awesome monastery called the Zen Monastery Peace Center in Murphy's, California. And I was introduced to her and her work 2 years ago. My life coach had been given a book of hers by another client of his, and he actually hadn't even read it, but he mentioned it in a conversation we were having. And I always read whatever we talk about. So I went out and got the book. The book is called "There's Nothing Wrong with You."
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I think it's been around for a while. She's been around for a while, and anyway, I read that book. It changed my life. I read it. I'm never not reading that book, frankly. And I just dove in head first. And so for the past 2 years, it's been now just really started a very solid uh, meditation practice. I mean, I had been practicing meditation for a while, but I don't know. It's just very different now. So Zen is my Zen. Actually, Zen is my Zen.
Zen is your Zen. Um,
Yeah.
I think I've seen, believe it or not, I think people have been citing, referencing that book on LinkedIn.
Mm.
People do some motivational stuff, and I
Hmm.
think that is actually something that's a touchstone for a lot of people. I think.
It's an amazing book, and it's been around, I think, since, well, I don't even know, but I could go get a copy of it right now and find out when it was first published. But I always keep 4 or 5 copies on hand because I give it away so much.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I think it's been around for a while. I think it was her second book. Her first book was called "Willingness is the Key," but "There's Nothing Wrong with You," I think, is because of her, what she's most known for. But she's not. I mean, it's just a small, very passionate crew of
That's
people
cool.
who, yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, it's been a tremendous gift to my life. It's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Hmm.
I agree.
Hmm.
So I'm going to get to the last of my 10 questions, and this is the one I've had a very wide range of responses to this one.
Mm.
Uh, the threshold. That's a point of no going back, and you know it. You
Mm.
know, you've crossed that threshold. The door is closed behind you. There's not even a door there anymore.
Mm.
Uh, we've all come to that point in our lives, and the question is, how did you know when you arrived there? How did it feel to cross it? What was the significance to you? What did you leave behind? What are you glad you left behind, and what do you regret leaving behind? That's a big question. Huh?
Yeah, uh, there's two thoughts I have for this question. Um, I mean, one is, of course, the decision to go and take care of my mom. I mean, it was just very clear that I was giving up my career and that I was entering into the unknown. 100%. The landscape was totally shifted, and there was going to be, I was not going to be who I was. Let's put it that way. Um, so, and that was apparent from the second I, you know, got the news. Essentially, I had gone home to see that my parents, to say goodbye to them before was going to go on this big trip. And the second she found out that the tumor in her abdomen was malignant and needed to be operated on immediately, I was like, right, take me back to the train station. I'm going back to New York. I'm unpacking, I'll be back tomorrow. And so there was definitely nothing left. I mean, I put my guitar in the corner of my childhood bedroom and didn't pick it up for a year and a half. And even then, I really didn't get back to, um, you know, anything resembling music, or what I knew, a career in music for probably 5.5 years.
Really?
Um, yeah, because she ended up living for 4.5, which was amazing, and a very high quality life, and
You did.
Yeah, it was incredible. And then, I had to deal with the aftermath of her death in terms of my own mental, psyche, and just getting my dad sort of the ship righted and sailing in the right direction again. That, I wasn't like my mom died and I was like, okay, see you later.
Yeah,
I yeah, I stayed at
you have
home
some
for
practical stuff to do too, which is also
exactly
wrenching. At the same time, you're doing all this stuff and it's killing you. But
right.
you have to do all those things, and
Yeah,
it's murder.
yeah. Yeah, so I had to stick around afterwards for a while and just help and make sure he was okay. And and then I eventually came back to New York and um all those things. So I think that's one answer. I don't know what I didn't I arrived into a totally strange landscape. um so yeah, I mean, I think, and then my other answer that I had thought about was just again, like, what do I want people to think about me? Or I have my answer to this is just that there's no such thing as a rival. Maybe, it's just like a constant unfolding of the moment. And if we can just be present and be okay with being present, then I mean, I believe we're all adequate to our lives. So, and we're when we're present, we're adequate.